At our engagement party in front of both our families, my fiancée made a grand speech about financial unity. Then, to prove her point, she handed the waiter the new debit card I'd given her, intending to pay for the entire $850 bill. A few moments later, the waiter returned. He quietly said, "Ma'am, this card has been declined due to insufficient funds." As everyone stared in horrified silence, I calmly pulled out my phone. I said, "That's impossible. The app shows the entire $7 is still right there. I am Ethan, 32 years old. My fiancée, Isabella, is 29. Our story didn't start with a bang, but with a quiet, calculated implosion that began 14 months ago. When I first met her, things were perfect, almost too perfect. She was a lifestyle consultant, a title as beautiful and vague as she was. She had this energy that drew you in this way, of making you feel like the only person in the world. We moved in together after 8 months, a decision that in hindsight was like hitting the fast-forward button on a car crash. The cracks started small, insignificant almost. We'd be out at a nice dinner, and she'd realize she'd left her wallet at home, again. Or we'd be at some expensive restaurant she'd picked and her card would be mysteriously declined. It became a pattern. A little loan here for a client emergency, a little loan there for car trouble, $200, $300, always promised with a kiss and a sincere, "I'll pay you back on Friday." Friday never came. The real conflict, the moment the game changed, happened about 3 weeks before the party. We were at home discussing the final details of our engagement celebration. She said, "Honey, I've been thinking." She traced a circle on my hand. "Since we're getting married, we're basically a family now, right?" I said, "I guess so." She said, "So I think I should have access to your bank account. You know, just for emergencies. It's about trust, Ethan. The final step before we're truly one." I nearly choked. For a moment, I just stared at her. The practiced smile, the unwavering gaze. It was a performance, and it was flawless. She saw my hesitation. She said, "What's wrong? Don't you trust me? My ex gave me full access to everything. Real couples don't have financial secrets. Maybe you're not as serious about this as I am." The guilt trip was an Olympic-level sport for her. But as she spoke, something in my head went quiet. The emotional noise died down, and all I could see was the logic of the situation, the data points, the small loans that were never repaid, the convenient forgetfulness, the entitlement simmering just beneath the surface. She was speaking about trust, but in my mind an alarm bell was screaming. There's a vast difference between partnership and possession. People confuse the two all the time, especially when they fall into the trap. The share everything trap. It sounds romantic, doesn't it? What's mine is yours. But it's one of the most sophisticated manipulation tactics in the book. It's not about unity. It's about control. When someone demands access to everything, you have not as a gradual step built on mutual respect and shared goals, but as a test you must pass to prove your love. They're not asking for partnership. They're asking for ownership. They want to blur the lines so completely that your resources become their resources, your hard work becomes their safety net, and your boundaries cease to exist. It's a hostile takeover disguised as intimacy. And in that moment, looking at the woman I was supposed to marry, I knew. This wasn't a request, it was a demand. And it wasn't the beginning of our life together, it was the beginning of the end. I looked at her, the woman I thought I would spend my life with, as she laid out the terms of my surrender, disguised as a declaration of love. My mind didn't race, it didn't burn with anger. It went cold, it went quiet, it started to calculate. I let a moment of silence hang in the air, just long enough for her to think she was winning. Then I gave her the warmest, most reassuring smile I could manage. I said, "You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Of course you should have access. We're a team." Her face lit up with a triumphant glow. It was the look of someone who had just successfully negotiated a merger where they get 100% of the assets for 0% of the work. She said, "Oh, Ethan, I knew you'd understand. This is what real commitment looks like. I love you so much." She kissed me. It felt like signing a contract I had no intention of honoring. That night, I waited until she was sound asleep, breathing the peaceful breaths of the blissfully entitled. I went into my office, closed the door, and sat in the dark for a moment. Then I opened my laptop. The clicks of the keyboard were the only sound in the house. I navigated to my bank's website. Open a new checking account. Click. Personal information. Click. Link to primary account for funding. Click. Initial deposit. I paused. The minimum to keep the account free of fees was $5. I typed in the number 7. I figured I could splurge a little. Then I clicked confirm. The entire process took less than 10 minutes. The first move in the game had been made. The next morning I told her I had to go to the bank in person. I said, "Since we're not married yet, they need you to be there to sign some forms to be an authorized user. It's some stupid legal thing." It was a complete lie, but she bought it instantly. Anything that involved paperwork and process made her eyes glaze over. I walked into the bank alone. The teller was a young guy, probably in his mid-20s. I explained that I wanted to add an authorized user to my brand new checking account and get her a debit card. He nodded professionally and pulled up the account. Then he saw the balance. He looked from the screen to me, back to the screen. A slow smile spread across his face. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me, a silent understanding passing between us. He knew exactly what this was. As he processed the paperwork, he worked with a new level of efficiency, as if he were an accomplice in a very satisfying, very petty crime. When he handed me the envelope with her new debit card, he leaned in slightly. He said, "Good luck, man." And as I turned to leave, he gave me a subtle, almost imperceptible thumbs up. It was all the validation I needed. I came home and presented the card to her like it was a crown jewel. I said, "Here you go. You now have full access to my bank account." She snatched it from my hand, her eyes wide. She said, "This is it. This is really it. We're doing the adult thing." She hugged the card to her chest. "I can't wait to use it for our party. We'll get the best champagne, the best everything." I said, "Absolutely. It's all yours to manage now." She was ecstatic, completely blinded by her victory. She had no idea that the keys to the kingdom I had just handed her unlocked a room with nothing inside but a single $7 bill. And I was going to make sure she opened that door in front of everyone. The days leading up to the engagement party felt like the slow, deliberate setup of a chessboard. Every piece was being moved into position, all leading to the final checkmate. Isabella was radiant. She had the glow of someone who believed they had already won. The new debit card never left her sight. It became a prop in her daily performance. She would pull it out of her designer wallet, just to look at it, a little smile playing on her lips. She talked endlessly about our joint account. It was her new favorite phrase. She sent me links to $1,000 handbags and $500 shoes. She said, "Once we're married, we'll need to upgrade our lifestyle a bit. We have to look the part of a power couple." I just nodded and smiled. I said, "Whatever you think is best, honey." Meanwhile, I made my own strategic move. I called my sister Chloe. She's the only person in my family who shares my pragmatic view of the world. I met her for coffee and told her everything. The red flags, the demand, the $7 account. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. Then she let out a low whistle. She said, "Ethan, that is the most brilliantly devious thing you have ever done. I'm so proud." I said, "I need you there. I need a witness." Chloe's eyes lit up. She said, "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world. I will be there with a front row seat and a fully charged phone. This is going to be better than theatre." Having an ally made all the difference. It solidified my resolve. This wasn't just a petty prank anymore. It was a controlled experiment, and Chloe was my peer reviewer. The day before the party, Isabella was on the phone with her best friend Sophia. I could hear her from the other room, her voice dripping with condescending pride. She said, "Oh my God, Sophia, he finally gets it. He completely trusts me. He gave me a card with full access to his bank account. We're 100% a team now." I could imagine Sophia on the other end gushing with approval, reinforcing Isabella's delusion. They lived in the same fantasy world, a world where love was measured in access codes and credit limits. Later that evening, as we were getting ready to sleep, Isabella held the new debit card in her hand. She said, "Tomorrow is going to be perfect, the start of our real life together. I'll make the speech, and then I'll pay for the whole party with this card, to show everyone that we're a single unit now." I looked at her, this beautiful stranger I had been living with. I felt a strange sense of calm, the calm of a strategist who knows his plan is flawless. I said, "I'm very much looking forward to seeing you use that card. It's going to be a brand new start for us." She had no idea how true that was. The stage was set, the audience was invited, and the star of the show was about to give the performance of a lifetime with a script she hadn't even read. The party was exactly as she had designed it: loud, expensive, and entirely focused on her. We were at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, the kind of place where they charge you $20 for a glass of water with a fancy slice of lemon in it. My parents were there looking slightly uncomfortable. Her friends, including Sophia, were in full force taking endless selfies. And my sister Chloe was sitting across from me, giving me a small, almost invisible nod. She was ready. Isabella was holding court. She floated between tables in a dress that probably cost more than my first car, telling everyone the story of how I had finally opened up and embraced true financial intimacy. She said he realized that love means sharing everything without secrets. We're a single unit now. His success is my success. She would glance over at me and blow a kiss. I would smile and raise my glass. The performance was nauseatingly perfect. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of small talk and terrible champagne, the main event arrived. The waiter, a young man with a permanently stressed expression, placed the leather billfolder on the table. Isabella beamed. She stood up, tapping her glass for attention. She said, "Everyone, I just want to say thank you all for being here. This night marks the true beginning of our journey. To show that Ethan and I are now one in every sense of the word, I'll be taking care of the bill tonight." A few of her friends let out a little awe. My mother just looked confused. Isabella reached into her purse and produced the new debit card with the flourish of a magician revealing a dove. She held it up for everyone to see. Then she handed it to the waiter. She said, "Here you go." The waiter took the card and walked away. A tense silence fell over our table. This was it. Chloe was staring at her water glass, trying desperately not to smile. My father was looking at me, a question in his eyes. I just kept my expression perfectly neutral. A few minutes later, the waiter returned. He looked awkward. He leaned down and spoke quietly to Isabella. He said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am, but this card has been declined." Isabella's face flushed a deep red. She laughed, a short, sharp, unnatural sound. She said, "That's impossible. You must have run it incorrectly. Try it again." Her voice was a little too loud. The waiter, clearly wanting to disappear, nodded. He said, "Of course." He took the card and left again. This time the silence was heavier. Sophia leaned over to Isabella and whispered something. Isabella just shook her head, her smile now frozen and tight. The entire table was watching. The air was thick with unspoken questions. I took a slow sip of my water. I could feel my own heartbeat steady and calm. The waiter came back. His face was pale. He looked like he was about to deliver a death sentence. He placed the card back on the table. He said, "I am very sorry, ma'am." I ran it again. It's showing insufficient funds. The words dropped onto the table like stones in a silent pond. Insufficient funds. The two most humiliating words in the English language. Isabella stared at the card as if it had personally betrayed her. Then her head snapped up, her eyes locking onto mine. The confusion was rapidly being replaced by a cold, rising fury. She said through gritted teeth, "Ethan, what is going on?" I held her gaze. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't show any emotion at all. I calmly pulled out my phone. I said, "Let me check the app." I tapped the screen a few times. I tilted my head slightly as if I were genuinely puzzled. I said, That's strange." I turned the phone screen so she could see it. The balance is showing $7. All $7 are there. The silence that followed was absolute. It was so complete you could hear the distant city traffic. My father's jaw was on the floor. Sophia looked like she had seen a ghost. And Chloe. Chloe was biting the inside of her cheek so hard I thought she might draw blood, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Isabella's face went from red to white, to a blotchy, furious red again. She whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "This is a joke, right? This is some kind of sick joke. Where is your real account?" I looked at her. I looked at our families, at her friends. And then I looked back at her. I said calmly and clearly for everyone to hear, "This is my real account. My checking account. The one you said you wanted access to for emergencies. My savings, my investments, my retirement funds. Those are in different accounts. You never asked for access to those. You asked for my bank account. This is it." She just stared at me. No tears, just pure unfiltered shock and hatred. She slowly pushed her chair back, the legs scraping loudly against the floor. She threw her napkin onto her plate, stood up, and without another word she turned and walked out of the restaurant. She didn't run. She walked. A stiff, rigid, humiliated walk of shame. I watched her go. Then I picked up the $850 bill. I pulled my actual wallet out of my pocket, took out my actual debit card, and handed it to the stunned waiter. I said, "I'll take care of this." When I got home, the storm had already made landfall. Isabella was in the bedroom, throwing her clothes into expensive suitcases. It was a controlled chaos, a performance of rage. She screamed, "You humiliated me. In front of your family. You made me look like a fool." I said calmly, "I gave you exactly what you asked for. Access to my bank account." She said, "You know what I meant. You meant to embarrass me. This is financial abuse." I actually laughed. A short, sharp, genuine laugh. I couldn't help it. The absurdity was just too much. I said, "Financial abuse. Denying you unrestricted access to the money I earn after 14 months of dating is abuse. That's a new one. That's when the real war began. The one fought not with words to my face, but with frantic taps on a phone screen. The next few days were a hurricane of crazy. It started with the phone calls. 23 missed calls on Sunday. The texts that followed were a roller coaster of manipulation from, "I'm sorry, can we please talk," to, "You're a heartless sociopath," and back to, "I miss you. I love you." On Monday she escalated. She showed up at my office downtown. The security guard at the front desk, a large man named Frank, who I bought coffee for every morning, earned his pay that day. He politely informed her that without an appointment, she couldn't come up. She stood on the sidewalk for 2 hours holding a cardboard sign that said, "Real men share." My co-workers thought it was hilarious. Someone took a picture. It became a meme on our company's internal chat server. On Tuesday, I received a Venmo request. The amount was for $3,847. The memo line read, "For emotional labor and household contributions." I declined it. Then I sent her a counter request for $4,200 with the memo, "For 14 months of dinners, unpaid loans, and the future therapy I'll require." She, of course, declined. On Wednesday, her mother called me. A woman I had met exactly twice. She lectured me for 10 minutes about doing the right thing by her daughter, about how Isabella had given up so many opportunities for me. I asked, "What opportunities exactly?" She worked 10 hours a week. Her mother replied, "She's an entrepreneur. You were supposed to support her dreams," I said. Her dreams seemed to be my bank account. She hung up on me. But Thursday was her masterpiece. She sent a mass text to a group chat with all of our mutual friends. It contained screenshots of our text conversations, but they were edited, cropped and stitched together to make it look like I had promised her a life of financial support, and then cruelly snatched it away. She had cut out all of her demands, all of her manipulation, and painted herself as the victim. She thought she could distort reality with a few cleverly cropped images. She didn't understand that in this era the battlefield isn't the real world anymore. It's the court of screens. This is a courtroom where truth isn't what's spoken but what's documented. The winner isn't the person who shouts the loudest, but the one with the most complete archive. The act of screenshotting everything, every message, every demand, every lie. It isn't petty. It's the collection of evidence. It is a strategic act of self-defense. Because in this court, a single, undeniable, unedited screenshot holds more weight than 1,000 tearful denials. And I, from the very beginning, had been a meticulous archivist. I looked at the group chat buzzing with sympathy for her. I saw her friends typing messages of support. I saw some of my friends typing confused questions. Then I replied to all. I didn't add any commentary. I didn't add any explanation. I just attached the files, one after another. The full unedited screenshots of our entire conversation. Her original demand. Her messages about how her ex gave her everything. Her texts, admitting she wanted the card to buy whatever she wanted without asking. I hit send, and then I watched the group chat explode. The first reply was from our friend Derek. It just said, "Laugh my ass off. Isabella, you really thought that would work?" Another friend, a woman named Sarah, replied, "Wait, you were only dating a year, and you wanted full access to all his money. Girl. The frantic typing from her friends stopped. The sympathetic messages vanished. The chat went quiet. It was the digital equivalent of a nuclear bomb going off, leaving nothing but silent, awkward fallout. The court of screens had delivered its verdict, and it was brutal. I thought the public humiliation and the social implosion would be the end of it. I was wrong. It turns out when you corner a narcissist, they don't retreat. They go nuclear. 2 weeks after the party, a man in a cheap suit showed up at my door and handed me an envelope. I had been served. Isabella was taking me to small claims court. The claim was a work of fiction, so audacious it was almost impressive. She was suing me for a total of $10,500. The breakdown was as follows. $5,000 for breach of verbal contract based on all the times I had said things like, "I'll take care of you." $2,500 for emotional distress, citing the brunch incident. And a final $3,000 for lost wages, claiming she had to turn down work to support my emotional needs during our relationship. I didn't get angry. I didn't even worry. I just got organized. I put all my evidence, the screenshots, the bank statements, the Venmo requests into a neat folder. I was a software engineer. My entire life was about logic, data, and process. This was just another system to debug. The day of court arrived. I showed up in my best suit. Isabella showed up in a costume. She wore a conservative dress I'd never seen before, glasses she didn't need, and her hair in a tight bun. She was playing the part of the wronged woman, and she was overacting. The judge, a man in his 60s with a deeply tired face, read her complaint. I could see him physically fighting the urge to roll his eyes. He said, "Miss Isabella, let's start with this breach of verbal contract. You claim the defendant promised to support you financially." She said, her voice full of fake sincerity. "Yes, Your Honor. He said we were a team. He said I'd never have to worry about money again." Then he humiliated me. The judge looked at me. I stood up. I said, "Your Honor, I have the full text conversations here. The defendant is correct that I said I would take care of her in the way any loving partner would. But her claim for financial support came with a specific demand for unrestricted access to my accounts, which I have also documented." The judge read the printouts. He looked back at Isabella. He said, "Miss Isabella, telling someone, 'I'll take care of you,' in a relationship is not a legally binding contract to fund their lifestyle in perpetuity. Let's move on." He addressed her claim of emotional distress. She recounted the story of the brunch, painting herself as a victim of a cruel public prank. The judge asked, "Did he tell you there was more money in that account than there actually was?" She said, "Well, no, but I assumed." The judge cut her off. He said, "Ma'am, the court is not the place to litigate unrealistic expectations in a relationship. Your assumptions are not his legal responsibility." Finally, they got to the lost wages. This was my favorite part. She claimed she was making at least $5,000 a month before she met me. I presented the lease application she had filled out 18 months prior before we knew each other. On it, under penalty of perjury, she had listed her monthly income as $1,200. The judge looked at the application. He looked at her. Her face was starting to crumble. He said, "Miss Isabella, lying under oath is a serious offense." That's when the tears started. Not sad tears. Angry, frustrated. "How is this not working?" tears. She sobbed. "This isn't fair. He has the money. He should have to share it. I was going to be his wife." The judge sighed. He said, "Case dismissed. And, Miss Isabella, you will be required to pay the defendant's court costs of $75. The look on her face when she realized she would have to give me money instead of the other way around was worth every second of this ridiculous ordeal. But the final checkmate, the move that ended the game for good, came later that night. As I was sitting at home enjoying the profound silence of my apartment, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Isabella. It was a long, rambling paragraph of pure rage. It ended with the line, "I hope you're happy with your stupid money. You're a monster. P.S. I was sleeping with Marcus for the last 2 months anyway." Marcus, her client who always needed late-night consultations. For a second it stung, but then I realized what she had just done. She had just admitted to cheating, in writing, and she had named a name. I didn't reply to her. I opened a new message. The recipient was her best friend, Sophia. I remembered that Sophia had once tearfully told me she was trying to get back together with her ex-boyfriend. His name was Marcus. I forwarded Isabella's message to Sophia. I added a single line of my own. Just thought you should see this. I hit send. And the final satisfying implosion of Isabella's world was a blast I could feel even from miles away. The game was over. It's been a few months now. The 60-day notice has long since expired. The apartment is quiet. It's a clean, calm quiet that I hadn't realized I was missing so badly. It's the kind of quiet that lets you hear your own thoughts again. The $8,000 invoice was eventually paid by her parents after a series of angry phone calls. I heard through the grapevine that Chloe's hot single summer turned into a cold, lonely autumn. Her friend group fractured after the truth came out. Jessica's boyfriend, the one who sent me the screenshots, broke up with her a week later. Apparently he didn't like being lied to either. Chloe had to move back in with her parents. Her influencer dreams built on a foundation of my stability crumbled without a stage to perform on. My life got better. I started dating again. I met a woman, an architect, who finds joy in building things, not just appearing in them. We talk about plans, about futures, but we also talk about boundaries. Her finances are hers, mine are mine. We are partners, not a merger. It's peaceful. Sometimes sitting here in the quiet, I look back on that one single decision, that one click of a mouse button, the like, the simple, cold, logical action that set everything in motion. And I ask myself a question. It's easy to say it was the right decision now. Everything worked out perfectly. The villain was vanquished. The hero was vindicated. Karma delivered a flawless victory. But what if it hadn't? What if I had lost friends? What if the social backlash had been severe? What if it had cost me more emotionally and financially than I ever expected? Would the decision still have been the right one? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. There's a concept called outcome bias. It's the mental shortcut we take where we judge the quality of a decision based on the result it produced rather than the quality of the thinking that went into it. We see a successful outcome, and we call the decision brilliant. We see a failure, and we call the decision foolish. But the real value of what I did wasn't in the victory. It wasn't in winning the social media war or in being proven right in front of everyone. The value was in the decision itself. It was in the single moment I saw a violation of my dignity and my future and chose to protect it regardless of the consequences. The true victory isn't measured by the neat and tidy ending. It is measured by the peace you reclaim for your own soul. The financial and social vindication, that's just a bonus. The real win, the victory of character, happened in that quiet office with a single silent click of a button. That was the moment I chose myself, and that is a victory that no outcome can ever take away.